All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a super fast-paced, conceptual tour of exactly how we measure the entire economy. We are completely ditching the dry textbook math today and stepping right out into the real world to explore the types of index numbers. If you've ever watched the news and heard about inflation jumping, stock market points dropping, or production volumes shifting, and thought, wait, how do they actually calculate that? Well, you are in the perfect place. We're going to break down these absolutely incredible statistical tools into clean, practical concepts using everyday scenarios. So buckle up because economic data is about to get a whole lot more interesting. Now, to really appreciate how we track the economy today, we kind of have to rewind the clock a bit. People have literally been stressing over inflation for centuries. This isn't some brand new modern invention. The first real study happened way back in 1707. An English guy named William Fleetwood wanted to know why living was getting so darn expensive. So he actually compared the prices of wheat, oats, beans, meat, and cloth between the 1400s and his current day in the early 1700s. Talk about some long-term data tracking, right? Later in 1738, a Frenchman named Charles de Ferry-Dutot built a simple aggregative index, and by 1764, an Italian named G.R. Carli recorded the first official index number. So the desire to measure market changes, it is literally written right into our human history. So here's the absolutely crucial point. How do we actually establish a starting line for all these comparisons? Whether it's the 1700s or right now, every single index relies on a foundation known as the base year. And that base year is almost always anchored by one magic number, 100. This visually anchors our entire system. The base year is just a normal, average year we pick out of the past to act as our reference point. We set its index value at 100. Once you do that, every single change that happens in the current year is just a relative shift from that starting line. So if your new index is 120, boom, you instantly know there's been a 20% increase since your base year. It's clean, it's elegant, and it completely avoids getting bogged down in messy absolute numbers. Here's our quick roadmap for this explainer. First, exploring the economic barometer. Second, the price index and market fluctuations. Third, the quantity index for physical output. Fourth, the value index, the hybrid beast, and finally, special purpose niche economic tools. Let's get moving. Section 1. Exploring the economic barometer and how we measure those big economic trends. Think of it like this. Just like a meteorologist uses a barometer to, predict a storm, economists use index numbers to measure the actual pressure of the economy. The core concept basically branches out into 4 specific statistical tools: the price index, the quantity index, the value index, and the special purpose index. Each one measures a distinctly different economic reality. Section 2, the price index, dealing with market fluctuations. Imagine walking into a super busy, chaotic market. A price index essentially answers one simple question: is stuff getting more expensive? But, prices change totally differently depending on who's actually doing the buying. At the retail level, it tracks daily consumer goods, the milk, the bread, the clothing that you and I buy every day. But if you walk over to the wholesale market, it's tracking heavy raw materials like bulk steel, agricultural yields, or industrial chemicals for businesses. The index literally adapts to fit the market it's in. But here's a really fascinating pivot for us. We've been staring at price tags, right? But what happens if the prices in that exact market stay perfectly flat, but the factory just down the road suddenly starts pumping out twice as much stuff? That is a massive economic shift. But guess what? A price index wouldn't even notice it. It's totally blind to volume. To see that, we need to leave the marketplace and step right onto the factory floor. Which brings us right to Section 3. The quantity index, focusing on physical output. Economists also call this the volume index. Imagine standing right in the middle of a massive agricultural farm, or say a huge sprawling auto factory. A quantity index is basically sitting there with a clicker, tracking the actual physical output over time, like the total tons of wheat harvested or the number of cars rolling off the line. It ignores price changes entirely. It literally only cares that a physical item was built or grown. Now, let's just briefly look at the fundamental notations we use to track all this. And hey, don't worry, we are keeping the math super simple. It really all comes down to P and Q, and 0 and 1. P obviously stands for price, and Q stands for quantity. And for the time periods, 0 represents our base year, that starting line in the past we talked about earlier, and 1 represents our current year, like right now. Actually, scratch that. It's not even math. It's really just a simple code. So P0 is the price back then, and P1 is the price today. Simple, right? This notation is the secret code that makes all the tracking possible. All right, on to Section 4.
The value index, which we like to call the hybrid beast.
So, we are leaving the factory floor and heading straight to the retail checkout counter. The value index is what happens when price finally meets quantity. We absolutely love calling this the hybrid beast because it measures changes in the total monetary value by simply multiplying our price, P, by our quantity, Q. It's considered a much more informative index overall. Why? Well, because the economy is rarely just changing prices or just changing volumes. Usually, both are shifting at the exact same time. The value index captures the whole shebang in a single, incredibly powerful metric. Here is exactly how that checkout countermouth works for comparing total transaction values. If you look at the base year value row, we just take the old prices, P0, and multiply them by the old quantities, Q0. That gives us our base monetary total. Basically, what was the total value of all goods exchanged back then? Then, on the bottom row, we do the exact same thing for today. Current prices, P1, multiplied by current quantities, Q1. This calculates the net change in the total monetary value of transactions right now. It is the ultimate reality check for total economic activity. Finally, Section 5, Special Purpose Indices, our niche economic tools. Let's leave general inflation in the rearview mirror for a second, because sometimes you don't need a broad economic barometer, right? You need a laser pointer. These special purpose indices are constructed for highly targeted, super specific purposes. Just look at this list. We've got special indices tracking the import and export trends for massive cargo ships managing global supply chains. There are indices specifically measuring labor productivity on job sites. And, of course, the wildly fluctuating digital stock market ticker boards. Indices like the Sensex, which tracks 30 well-established companies on the Bombay Stock Exchange all the way since 1978, or the Nifty 50. And on a much more personal level, there are even indices acting as family cost of living trackers, literally ensuring wages actually keep up with local, regional expenses. To really ground all these concepts in reality, just take a look at these massive government-level applications from the government of India. This really shows you the sheer scale of the whole operation. You've got the Consumer Price Index and Wholesale Price Index. Those are our market price trackers. You've got the Index of Agricultural and Industrial Production, our physical quantity trackers. And they even track complex multi-layer data like the Human Development Index. These statistical tools are deployed at a huge national scale to make sense of literally billions of daily data points. So what is the ultimate takeaway here? Like, why does all this actually matter to us? Well, it matters because these index numbers are absolutely indispensable. They aren't just dry textbook formulas that you learn and forget. They are the exact tools governments and economists use for studying trends and forecasting our economic future. By examining the index of industrial production over the last 5 years, leaders can instantly see if the economy is trending up or down. These numbers literally guide policymakers in framing absolutely critical economic policies, from huge agricultural reforms to fixing baseline wages and dearness allowances for regular employees. Which brings us right to the end of our explainer. We've gone from busy, chaotic markets to massive factories, all the way to the frantic stock market, trading floors. And we want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on today. Think about your own daily financial reality. The groceries you just bought, the rent you pay, the wages you earn at your job. How exactly is your own personal cost of living being tracked right now by these invisible statistical tools? It's all connected, and it is all being measured. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating tour of index numbers. Keep questioning the data, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.